The war in Ukraine still rages, hence the tie and kerchief. And Russia keeps telling lies about it. Like, no, it wasn't Russian rockets that killed more than 50 people at a railway station in the Donbass last weekend. That was the Ukrainians. But I tell you what, the lie that's the most insane yet, I'm going to show you. It shows to me that Vladimir Putin's regime, there's some of the key people there must be on drugs or booze, or they must just be plain nuts. Here's the spokesman for Russia's Foreign Affairs Ministry, blaming Russia's invasion on, I kid you not, soup Nazis. Blaming it in part on Ukraine supposedly banning cookbooks from saying its national soup, borscht, made of cabbage and beetroot, that soup was actually Russian too. Listen and wonder, what kind of crazy people speak for the Russian president?
Ну и все, что связано было, как я уже сказала, с этникой, с культурой в первую очередь. Даже книги по кулинарии, они тоже запрещались. Почему? Потому что нельзя было делиться борщом. Ну нельзя, он должен был принадлежать только кому-то одному. Вот только кому-то одному, какому-то одному народу, одной национальности. А так, чтобы он был общий, и чтобы в каждом городе или в каждом регионе каждая хозяйка могла приготовить его по-своему, нет. На компромиссы идти не хотели. Так это и есть то, о чем мы говорим, ксенофобия, нацизм.
Let me underline, that woman is the official spokeswoman for the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And this is why Russian soldiers are raping hundreds of Ukrainian women and killing thousands of Ukrainian civilians, including children, because of a soup? I think the West isn't doing enough still to help Ukraine win this war. Because peace, obviously, with Russia, people, crazies like that, that's impossible. Ukraine has to win this war. So I have huge respect for Britain's Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, on the weekend actually went to the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, to meet its heroic president. He walked with Zelensky down the city streets and promised that president even more British weapons, with residents stopping him to thank him for his help and his courage. Boris Johnson did that. US President Joe Biden, he wouldn't dare go to Ukraine. Poland's as close as he got. The French president didn't bother. Don't even talk to me about the German Chancellor. He's a disgrace. Joining me from London is Brendan O'Neill, political editor of the online magazine Spike. Brendan, look, I've got to say, last year I was in despair. You had your Prime Minister, Johnson, fighting the clouds and the tides, fighting global warming, making a fool of himself. Now, though, he's backed off that and is finding a real enemy. He's fighting Vladimir Putin. All credit to him, right?
I think so, yes. And I think what he's done is very admirable. Going to Kyiv at this time is a good thing to do, and it shows British solidarity with the Ukrainian people as they fight against the Russian aggressors. I think it's a very good thing that he did. I think it was pretty brave. And there's been a lot of cynicism and sneering here in the UK, especially among the chattering classes and the liberal media and the Remainer elites, the people who hate Boris because he got Brexit done. There's a lot of sneering saying, well, he went to a safe city. It was just a PR stunt. He was just walking through the streets. It really demonstrates how much these people are down on their own country, down on the United Kingdom, that they would even sneer at something like this. But I think most people can see that this was a welcome gesture of solidarity between Britain and Ukraine, which have a shared interest in defending sovereignty against external actors. So I think he did something very good.
Absolutely correct. Brendan, I mentioned the French president. France yesterday actually had the first round of his presidential election with the top two candidates going to the final round. Well, the two winners are the French president himself, a centrist on 26.1% of the vote, and the far-right's Marine Le Pen on 23.1%. I say she's far-right, but she's now trying to sound more moderate, I guess. What do you make of the election results?
I think what's happened in France is extraordinary. This was the first round of the presidential election. As you say, we've got Macron and Le Pen going face to face in the second round. But, you know, what was really striking was the complete obliteration of the traditional parties of the right and the left. So both the Republicans, the right-wing party, and the Socialist Party did very, very badly indeed. It looks like they might not even get their money back because they had such a bad showing in terms of electoral support. So the traditional parties of right and left are gone. And Macron himself, the poster boy of European liberalism, the poster boy of the European Union, he's in trouble too. And I'm not surprised, actually, because he's a very monarchical style of leader. He's very out of touch with ordinary people, and he really demonstrates how problematic globalist style politics is. He sneers at pensioners. He tells them to stop complaining. He describes the left behind people of France as people who are nothing. He sneered at workers who've gone on strike to demand better pay. He's completely out of touch with ordinary French people and far more happy hanging out in globalist institutions with other leaders. So I'm not surprised at all that lots of people in France are taking a gamble on someone they might not even like, Marine Le Pen, because they're tired of Macron's regime.
Although we always see this, don't we, Brendan, after every one of these elections, if she's in the ballot, and she has been, I think, twice already, then the media unite against her, whatever the party they were supporting, and they want to shoot her down. Brendan, meanwhile, there is another war raging in the West. It's the culture war. This time, news that British transgender police officers born male will be allowed to strip search women. And if a woman complains, she could be charged with a non-crime hate incident. What on earth is going on in your country?
I mean, on one level, this is really shocking. On another level, it actually makes perverse sense, because if we go around saying trans women are women, which is the mantra of our times, and everyone has to repeat it or else they'll be expelled from polite society, then you have to accept that a police officer who says, oh, by the way, I'm a woman, is instantly a woman and must be treated as such, and therefore has the right to intimately search a woman who's been arrested on suspicion of an offence. This is really obscene, but it is actually the logical conclusion to the transgender ideology. What we need to do is push back in favour of reason, and we have to challenge this idea that a man can become a woman simply by declaring it. And unless we challenge that ideological underpinning to these kinds of things, it's just going to get worse and worse.
Well, you say, you know, we've got to challenge it and challenge the ideological underpinnings. Excuse me, Brendan, apart from you and other commentators, who in the political establishment does?
Not enough. Although Boris, another good thing that Boris has done recently, he has come out and said that biological males should not take part in women's sports and should not enter women-only spaces. So there's a little flash of reason coming from Boris Johnson in particular. He won't have won many brownie points with his wife, Carrie Johnson, by making those comments. So there might be hope yet, but you're right. We need more people in the political establishment defending the idea of womanhood, defending women's rights, and challenging this woke insanity that's taking over the West.